Hello, my name is Eric Schoones, and I'm very happy to host this second talk on the series of Zen and Musicianship. This today together with Nelson Goerner. Welcome, Nelson.
Hi, Eric. Thank
And
you.
it's an honor and a privilege to have you on the show. um, what I remember from you every time I hear you live in concert, it's you forget all about the effortless control and the incredible virtuosity and the beautiful sound. It's all about the simplicity and the truth of music when you play, and that is something really unique, I think, for me.
Well,
So
I'm so glad to hear you saying that.
yeah, it's
Very special to me.
it's what I it's what I think. And it happens seldom, I must say. I don't have it so often with the musicians, and it perhaps, I don't know, but perhaps it's because you are connected to your true self, as they say in Zen.
Well, that's, I think, the essence of our work as
Mm,
musicians. And that's from the very beginning of your work with a piece, be it a new piece, be it an older piece that you are taking back. I think the approach in that is really very much the same. It's really
mm,
wanting to go to the core of the music and try to get rid of everything that could go in the way, um, everything that could be thinking of your ego too much, or trying to put your personality forward.
mm,
Because I think that your personality will come through when you are the least conscious of it. Then it will just happen.
mm. Yes, so I heard somebody else say that too, that you don't do so much actually in terms of tempo or nuances, or you just go with the flow of the music and let it happen, as they say.
Well, that's very important to me. It has always been like that.
Uh-huh.
Um, at a very early stage, I remember in reading a book, Conversations with a Rao,
Uh-huh.
and he insisted very much on that point. And he was talking in that book quite at great length on Zen and his experience, his readings about that. And I think that in this way, everything is connected, maybe there is a musician that does not have a great knowledge of this philosophy or has not read properly about Zen, but it can bring you to the same result if you are honest, if you are conscious as a musician, and if your inner wish more than anything else is to go to the core, to what is essential in music, then everything comes together. The
Mm-hmm.
way the great masters of music wish, and also the way that the great masters of such a philosophy as Zen is desire as well.
Yeah, that's very true what you say, because you don't learn it from a book. You don't become a great musician because you have read Eugen Herrigel's book on Zen in the Art of Archery. You have it or you don't have it. I think it's also a question of personality.
It is a question of personality, and it is, of course, something that you can develop.
Uh-huh.
You can be at first, how I would say, invaded by feelings of trying to impose yourself, because it's a very hard life, the life of a musician.
Mhm.
And when you start and you are doing your first steps in what is so-called a career, then of course you are conscious about yourself, you try to make it, and you try to have more concerts, and you want to be exposed to, and it is legitimate because you also want to share uh, your love for this music and your feelings, your vision, how much does it mean to you? All this is very legitimate. The problem is when it is oriented towards success or towards, having fame, and that is when things start to separate from the essence.
Yeah, and that is a real trap, because when you are on the stage in front of lots of people, then you perhaps fall into this trap of trying to sell your point too much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you are the least convincing if you try to do so.
Yeah.
Because it is an inner law, I would say, in music and in art in general. For an art to be of the highest value and expressive value, I mean, it also implies a lot of humility on the part of the performer. In order for the performer to become a way for the composer or for the music to express itself, you have to get rid of all this thinking that could paralyze you or that could get in the, so that you are one with the music, one with your instrument, and true to yourself.
And how do you learn that?
Well, this is something that, of course, if you are really concentrated from an early stage in your development, in this way of thinking, in which you positively know that you are not above the composer, but you are a vehicle for the composer and for the music to be expressed, then you are already, with a good ground basis on which your personality can express itself. Because there is there is any contradiction between let the music speak by itself and your personality. Not at all. It's all united. And that's what is at times hard to understand. Yeah. Because many young performers, for instance, I have seen, they think that it is either one way or the other. Either you express your big personality and it is fascinating and overwhelming and all that, or either you are at the service of the composer, but maybe you don't have that major impact of your own view, and it is not such a thing. There is not a contradiction in that. No, or at least it shouldn't be in an ideal world.
No, because there can't be an objective performance, and you are only interesting when something of your own personality comes through in the way you play.
Exactly.
As a servant to the composer. Perhaps you are teaching also a lot, or you have a class in Geneva. Is it important that you have someone like a coach that makes you aware of some mannerism you can develop unconsciously, or that?
Yeah, I think that's my role. Yeah, I think that as a teacher, that's one of the things I'm the most aware of. When I see something like that, mannerisms creeping into the personality of one of my students, I tried, first of all, to make them realize what is happening, but without really criticizing, because a mannerism can, at its best, be a way to try to infuse the music with your wishes, with your personality, and then you do a little bit too much, or it becomes artificial. But at its best, it could come out of a genuine feeling. So you have to be very careful not to criticize, not to try to break this. I would say in a blunt way. This you should try not to do. So the first thing is to make them aware, and then to try to express maybe the same, maybe, if it is out of an original and true idea, but without this artifice.
I think that's the important point, that as a teacher, you have to be aware not to impose your own ideas and beliefs too much on the student, because then the student may become a copy of you in the musical way of expressing, and that's no use.
No, no, that's
student,
completely no use, because
yeah,
yeah, the world doesn't need a second someone
no,
else.
no. Well, a second Nelson Goerner wouldn't perhaps.
No, no.
Then one can
I
play in America and the other one can play in Europe at the same
I
time.
think what is important is, of course, when someone comes to study with you, it comes also, he or she comes because they like your playing, they like what you do, they heard you in concert. So there is nothing bad in identifying yourself with a teacher. And maybe at times you can also, in a way, copy your teacher. It's not so bad, you know. But then it's a copy that is not copying really. But I think that the student might be tempted at some point to do that until he finds his own way, until all the, you know, he can digest them and he can make them their own thing, you know.
That's the same idea with when you encourage them to listen to the great pianists of the past, or to listen to some Maria Tipo recording or Horowitz, or if you want to play the arabesque, the best thing you can do is listen to Horowitz, and then you already have some idea of what it can be. But you it becomes
a wonderful idea of what it can be, of what it can sound like. And then it doesn't mean that you are going to become a clown of Horowitz, you know.
No.
Maybe at some point you are tempted because it's so overwhelmingly beautiful that you try, you know, to go in that direction. But at the end of the day, maybe you will play totally differently, you know, if you really have something to say.
Yeah. This connects to your idea about practicing, because we talked about that before. You adhere to the idea of very slow and dry practicing and not expressing too much, and then leaving the real thing to the moment at the concert stage, that you feel the freedom to do something. And when you study like that, you perhaps can prevent becoming a copy of your teacher, because then you develop your own ideas in the moment.
You develop your own ideas, and by playing not overly expressive while practicing, a little bit dryish and slowly, you can control that what you have in your mind and in your soul exactly goes there. It is happening. You have the time to control it. It's not the slow for the sake of being slow, or because it is said that it's good to practice slow. You know, it's just because there is a major aim and an achievement, a goal behind that, and one must be clear about that goal. One must tell the student why we are practicing precisely that slow, a certain passage. What are we trying to achieve? What is the sound control required to do that? And also, at the same time, trying to explain that if you are practicing slow, you have to play with exactly the same motion that you will use when playing fast. Otherwise, it's counterproductive, of course.
But that is, I think, the most important aspect of teaching, that you show your student how to practice, because they study with you for 3 or 4 or 5 years, and then they should do it by themselves.
Exactly. They study with you 2, 3, 4 years, but their way of practicing will be for life.
Yeah. So they should learn how to practice. Not like Nathan Milstein, he said, you must think of ways how to play better. You have a certain problem, and you must think what do I have to do to make it work?
Exactly. Yes.
And that is what you teach them.
That is what I trying to teach them, you know. And I have been fortunate enough. I received that as a precious heritage from my teachers. They really taught me how to practice in order to sound better. And it was always explained, it was analyzed, you know. And so I have many writings from my teachers on my scores and on some notebooks. And I always go back to that because it refreshes me completely, you know. And then it's also a source for me of inspiration of what and how to explain to my students about the good practice habits.
Yeah, that's what strikes me every time I hear you, and also on CDs, that you have this incredible sound, and that you have in common with all great pianists, that you have really it's like a fingerprint in the concert hall. Although the piano is the same for everyone, you have a very specific quality of sound, and that is already, c'est le ton qui fait la musique. That's already a big part of the enjoyment you can have from. Well, enjoyment is not the right word, but
that's actually how I developed my fascination from the piano, or for the piano, I would say, comes exactly from that, from the sound that I heard in the old records of all the great ones.
Okay.
And that was so striking, and it is still so striking every time. That something that I really wished, and I always wanted, is to develop a sound that is mine. And it is yours, again, we come back to the beginning. It can be yours only if your aims are right in artistic way, you know. Again, if you are not trying to put yourself in the front of the limelight.
You said somewhere that you are nervous, not because of some difficult passage or the piano, but you are nervous because of you have this responsibility towards music and the composer and the art, that you can live up to that.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm nervous, because this is a huge responsibilities on your shoulders every time. Yesterday, I was playing for an homage that was given to one of my precious colleagues who died recently, Dominique Weber, who was a great teacher at the Geneva Conservatoire. And I was playing Brahms Sonata number 3, Opus 5. And it's a piece that I have lived with for the last 25 years, on and off. It's not all the time, but through a very, very long time altogether. And I was still nervous, of course. But why was I nervous? It was not because I was thinking of me or to show how good or how great I am, but it is because this music means so much to me that I naturally want to give my best for it.
Mm. Yeah, I remember you playing that also in Holland, and it's unbelievable. But it's perhaps it's the only way you can do it, because when you are confronted with a masterpiece like that and an incredible symphony for the piano with all these ideas and these emotions and these incredible melodies and everything and this drama and the whole structure, then you can only feel very small
Yes.
compared to Brahms, although he was a young man.
Yeah, although he was a very young man.
Yeah.
And that's the wonderful thing, because you feel very small, and at the same time you feel prodigiously fortunate that your hands, your soul, your mind can approach a little bit of this incredible masterpiece, you know. And so it's such a gift from heaven, I would say. Yeah. And this is something that you really need to enjoy as well, you know, because there is in music making, the enjoyment, the fulfillment is not only a duty to do your best, but it's also the joy of doing it in the process. And that's what one communicates with people.
And do you realize that yourself when you go out on stage, that you in fact are a privileged human being, allowed to share that?
I think that, yes. I don't think it all the time, because you know, every time we go on stage we have different feelings in mind and we think about different things. We are still, of course, fighting with things that could prevent you from going to the core, you know. It always comes back and you have to fight it. This is a never-ending process. But yes, very often I realize how privileged I am. And that gives me the strength to do it, and the will to approach even more a sort of ideal that I have in my mind.
Perhaps that's a very beautiful thought to conclude this short conversation.
Great.
Yeah, okay. Well, always a great pleasure talking to you, Nelson.
For me, it's the same.
Looking forward to hearing you soon, I hope, again in the Netherlands somewhere, or in Belgium or Germany.
I hope so.
If it's allowed.
If it is allowed, yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's hope for the best.
Yeah, let's hope for the best, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Eric.